Several months ago, I was seeing a couple and I got a very clear look at what being an emotional bully is. We talk a lot about bully behavior and we liken it to narcissistic traits and other toxic traits, but an emotional bully is much different. You see, emotional bullies don't come to become a bully like a lot of other bullies are basically prepped or groomed. An emotional bully is someone who bullies because they grew up in an extremely chaotic home, toxic environment. And so it's almost like a scrappy, manipulative scarcity way that these people react to any kind of discourse. At the back of their mind, they claw their way to win. They will not stop at anything. There's an urgency with them. I wanted to go through some traits of a typical emotional bully, and then I was hoping that it would help you depict certain areas. If you're with somebody who's an emotional bully, it doesn't necessarily have to be all of them, but you will see very clear markers. Now, the important thing I want you to hear as you listen to this, an emotional bully can be anybody. Maybe it can be your mom, your dad, it can be you, it can be your girlfriend, boyfriend. Sometimes you'll see it in your children, but what's more important is that you listen to the markers. The first one being that they interrupt all the time. And they're not interrupting and then saying, oh, excuse me. They're interrupting because it's part of the win. They know how the fight's going to go and they need to win. I'll go through these rather quickly. They throw fits. They don't get their own way and they will throw a fit and destroy the whole dialogue, the whole situation to get their way. They accuse and blame. That's what they do all the time. They can never accept responsibility. Basically, they arm their children. If they have kids, they always are preparing their kids for a battle, for defense. Like, what are you going to say? And they script their kids. This is very typical of an emotional bully. They yell and scream, and they'll do it in public. They'll do it anywhere. They're not trying to look good for anybody. They're trying to win whatever is on the table for them to win. They will use profanity, and once again, they're not careful when they use it. They'll embarrass you. They'll humiliate you if you're with them. They slam doors, so they've got a lot of behavioral ways that they try to manipulate you, scare you. They'll slam walls. They'll throw things, an apple at you, a remote control, whatever they have in their hand. It can become a weapon. They punish. If they don't get their own way, they'll punish you, and they'll punish you with what they know works. It could be the silent treatment. It could be flirting with somebody else. They will get you back, and sometimes, often more than not, it is not passive aggressive. It is out there for everybody to see. They seek revenge. They cannot let stuff go, and that's their vengeance is theirs. It's not like what the Bible says. It's what's in their mind. They need to win. They'll threaten. They'll do whatever they can. They'll just take you down a rabbit hole so that they can get what they want in the end. And they unbury the dead. They live a lot of times digging up past grudges, past, slights that people should have known better. They demand apologies. They demand reputation. They're very into that. And they want everybody to know that you were wrong and they were right. And their anger is their default. In other words, they don't have another place like, most of us, our anger is not our default. It may be to breathe. It may be to focus on laughter. We try to use humor. We try to use other things. We distract. Not so for emotional bullies. Anger is theirs. They own it, and it's like no matter what it is, it makes them angry. If you're with someone like this and you want to stay with someone like this, first of all, if you're dating someone like this, I want to tell you the trajectory is very miserable. And if I were you, I would consider walking. If you have children and you're going to try to work with this kind of person, the most important thing is you have a counselor. And the reason is because that counselor is going to help remind you and validate you that this is not a well person, and that they're going to help guide you into better reactions on your part that may help. Okay, besides a counselor, you're going to need to accept the whirlwind. You're going to need to understand that when these people feel threatened, they will pull all the defenses around them. That, like in the old days when they said, circle the wagons, that's how these people are. And they'll get whoever they can, manipulate them to their side, once again, in an effort to prove that they are right. It's all about who's right and who wins. And secondly, I think caring more about the person than you do about winning. You have to focus on what's at stake. And many times an emotional bully, that they have a partner who's in therapy, they will eventually be motivated to go to therapy. If their partner's able to react in a way that they didn't expect, so they didn't have to feel defensive, then many times they'll get treatment. And one of the main treatments when I have an emotional bully client in my office is I'm going to focus on how much they care about the person. I'm trying to change that default, instead of going right to anger, to going what their partner will think. Would they hurt their partner? And it's interesting because these people are very streamlined focused. And if you can just shift the focus, it takes a while. It's not immediate, but if you can shift it to focus more on the caring, they can actually come around. I have seen it, and that gives me hope. So if you are with someone who is an emotional bully, I want you to know there is hope, but it has to begin with therapy for you, because otherwise you're going to react the same way, and you guys will create a terrible storm within your home. It's not good for your kids. It's not good for you. And lastly, you have to start thinking about one step at a time. This isn't going to change overnight. Anyone who's an emotional bully grew up with a skewed rules for love. In other words, they didn't grow up like we do, where love is accepting, love is calm, love is non-judgmental. They grew up in a combative, very toxic environment where there was chaos, there was neglect, there was abuse. And so their reaction is out of something that is wired into them, a fear of survival. And that's why they do the thing they do.